Good morning. Happy Monday. Week 4, starting off the week strong. So let's get started. Really quick, reading directions, do it. I write these things out so that you can read them, not so that you can just skim over them and then not know what you're doing. So read directions. Okay. Expectations, not going to go over it in depth. Must do work, must do it. Can do work, can do it. Can do work will make up for reading and writing grades. Guided notes, 50 points a week, 10 points per day. Must do assignments, 100 points a week, 20 points per day. Can do assignments make up for missing grades in the quarter. Live questions document, you guys have been doing really great using that. So keep using that for this entire week. I'm going to have the same live questions document for you, so you're going to continue working on the same document. Attendance check-in. Also, you guys have been doing really great. A lot of people have been checking in. Again, going to use the same attendance document just to make sure that we have everybody's attendance on the same document so that it's not a whole bunch of documents that I have to keep track of. This is mandatory, and it really, really helps me to keep accurate attendance. If you do not check in, it will be hard for me to make sure that I'm keeping accurate attendance. So this week's objectives. Interestingly enough, I am deciding to essentially keep things the same as they were last week. The only difference is that we are going to be making things a little bit more in depth. So last week, today, for example, we are going to be talking about plot again, but instead of just having the 5 parts of plot, we're going to be talking specifically about conflict. So your assignment for the end of the lesson today is going to be to fill out a plot diagram like you did last week, but have a quick description of what the conflict in your story is as well. So the do now, mandatory, you need to do it. Moody Monday, so think about someone you know who has been having a hard time adjusting to our current situation. That current situation obviously being the quarantine and COVID-19 and not being able to go to school, not being able to go to work, somebody that you know who's really struggling with this. You're going to write that person an encouraging letter, ensuring them that everything is going to be okay. So I understand that my perception of encouraging might be different than your perception of encouraging, but me personally, if I got a letter that was supposed to be encouraging that happens to be 1 sentence long, I wouldn't be very encouraged. In fact, I would probably be the opposite. So same to you, what I'm expecting you to do is to write a letter that is at least 5 sentences, because encouragement does take a little bit of time and effort, right? So just make sure that you are writing an actual letter and not just a sentence, because that is not acceptable. And another thing, if you personally feel like you are the one that you know who is really struggling with this the most, pretend that you're not you and write a letter to yourself. That would actually be a really good exercise and probably be a little bit helpful for you to kind of get through. Also, I'm noticing how flashy these glasses are. I've been getting headaches when I look at the screen, so I had to get those fancy blue light glasses. So ignore my nerd glasses. The objective and essential question. The objective is very similar to Monday. You're going to be able to read and comprehend fictional text in order to determine each specific part of the plot, including conflict. So your essential questions are, what are the specific parts of plot, which you should know, but I'm not going to give them to you today. Well, actually I am, but you should know them. And then what are the types of conflict within a text? So quick stop and jot. Think of a time that you were in a conflict and explain what it was and how you overcame it. You are going to write that in your guided notes. So that is going to be a stop and jot that you do in your guided notes. A time where you were in a conflict. Any conflict at all. Anything that you can think of. And please don't ever tell me that you were never in a conflict in your life, because there are multiple different kinds of conflicts, and I'm sure that you can think of one. Okay. So what is conflict? Before we even get started, I'm going to ask that you look at the following image and tell me what you notice about it. You are going to respond to this in your guided notes. There is no right and wrong answer here. Please do me a favor and don't cheat and go on to the next slide hoping to find an answer. What I would really, really like for you to do is take a minute and look at this image and really think about what sticks out to you. What is interesting to you? It says beginning, middle, end. It says exposition, conflict, rising action, climax, falling action, resolution, all things that you are aware of. But what is the most interesting part of this image? You cannot say nothing. Don't say nothing. I'm sure a lot of you are looking at it thinking, this is the most boring thing I've ever looked at. Don't say that nothing is noticeable about this. All right, so hopefully you didn't cheat. Hopefully you took a few minutes to write a response. If you're really, really going to be on the honor system, you can pause this for right now, write your response, and then wait for me to now click the next slide. I think that would be the best idea. So pause. Well, I guess I don't have to stop talking if you really did pause. Okay, next. So the conflict in a story is the main problem that the main character faces throughout the story. So me personally, my interesting thought about this image is when I look at it, I'm a little confused about the conflict and how it's in the beginning. I've always thought about the conflict as being the big part of the rising action, the big part of the climax. I've never thought about it in the beginning. So why do you think they put this in the beginning? So now you're responding to this as well. So I asked you to think about what you thought was sticking out to you before, just off the top of your head. Now I'm kind of leading you into talking about something. Why is it in the beginning? It's confusing to me. I don't really understand it. Why would the conflict be in the beginning of the story? Because I know that the conflict goes throughout the entire story. Why is it in the beginning? That is what you were going to answer on your guided notes. All right, so I'm going to watch a little bit of this with you because I find this hilarious. Types of conflict. Conflict is not always between two people. Here's an example. All right. So we've all seen those bad infomercials where it seems like the people acting in them are really struggling with some pretty simple tasks. So that's just a joking way to kind of bring to light the fact that there are different types of conflict other than those between two people. So the types of conflict that we can talk about. Here's a video. It's going to show you specific examples from movies of the types of conflict. But for right now, I'm not going to show the video, but I am going to go over the types. So man versus man. This is the most simple one. This is the one that we're most familiar with. Man versus man is a conflict in which characters are opposing forces. So it's one character versus another character. Do these characters have to be humans? No. Man versus man could be an animal versus an animal, especially if the animals have human-like characteristics or if they are personified, right? So man versus man is where two characters are opposing forces. Next, man versus self. If you have ever had a conflict within yourself where maybe you have to make a decision and you're not sure what to go with, so you kind of feel like you have two conflicting parts of your brain, that is what man versus self is. So it's when a character deals with internal struggles within their own mind. A lot of the time, this will be something that deals with specific trauma or confidence issues, all of that kind of stuff. These are characters that are very much within their own head and dealing with problems. Man versus nature. This is where a character struggles against a force of nature. So if you've ever read a story that a character deals with some kind of natural disaster, that would be man versus nature. I'm actually going to show that one because I think the one in here is very powerful and actually very terrifying. Don't ever let anybody tell you differently. Water is the scariest element of everything in the world. Okay, just felt like I should say that. And then finally, man versus society. That's where a character's beliefs go against that of society. So if you have one character who is fighting against a larger society, that would be man versus society. And again, when a story has conflict, it does not have to have just one. It can have multiple different types of conflict in it. When you have that situation, you just need to be able to tell which one is the main conflict that really drives the climax forward. I'm not gonna go over this, but here are the steps for Common Lit to sign up. You should have been doing that. You should have already signed up and have been using the Read Aloud feature, so you should be good. So your assignment is you're going to choose one of the following texts and you are going to complete the plot diagram that does include conflict. I'm going to include some specific questions to go along with your conflict as well. Please, when you choose your story, pay attention to the Lexile level. I would like for you to choose a Lexile level, a story that is not of a Lexile level that is super far above your own. So right here, 1700 Lexile, I don't expect anybody to be at that. It's a challenge, okay? This is a very interesting story. If you want to challenge yourself, feel free to choose this and use this. If you read it today and you realize that it's not something that you feel like you should be able to do or that you feel like you can do and you would like to do something a little bit less challenging, please feel free to let me know and you can switch at any point, okay? I would definitely switch after today if you're choosing to do that though. So this is the challenge one. Choose it if you feel like it. If you want to change, I will let you change at any period of time during the week. The other four, we have 1180, 960, 740, and 640. These are all very varied, so you should be able to find a story that is around or at your Lexile level. You're going to choose that story, you're going to read it, and you're going to do a plot diagram, and you're going to analyze the conflict that is developing within the story. Your can-do questions, you're going to take the following story and respond to the questions in the document. Looking forward, tomorrow we're going to be speaking about characterization, but more in depth. Last week when we did characterization, things that I noticed were that we have a difficulty determining what the difference is between emotions and reactions and character traits. A lot of people said that their character was excited. To be excited is an emotion. It is not an inherent character trait. You don't look at somebody and say, that's an excited person, because you're not always excited, right? So we're going to discuss tomorrow the difference between emotions and reactions and character traits. Just because those are the things that I noticed from last week. All right, so that is it for today. Do your must-do assignments, do your can-do assignments if you are missing any assignments from the third quarter, and I will exempt you from them. So if you have any questions, please feel free to use the live questions document, and please make sure that you check in with your attendance because that's mandatory and it helps me keep track of attendance. All right, you have a wonderful day. I will, I guess, kind of see you tomorrow.